Do you ever wonder what is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number? The traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of a community. A community not part of the mainstream, unconventional, peripheral, or extreme. Part of an anthology, a published collection of poems or other pieces of writing. This is Esoteric Lore. I'm your host, Edward Aponte, where I push you to ponder the fringes of folklore. I was going to begin this podcast by describing in lengthy terms what is emotional intelligence. But I thought I'd tell you a story. But before I give you the story, let's talk about a brief history of the term emotional intelligence. Who coined the term emotional intelligence? The term emotional intelligence was first coined by psychologists Peter Salovey and John D. Mayer in a 1990 academic paper entitled Emotional Intelligence. In their work, they defined emotional intelligence as the ability to monitor one's own and others' emotions, to discriminate between different emotions, and to use this information to guide thinking and behavior. While Salovey and Mayer introduced the term, it gained widespread popularity in 1995 when Daniel Goleman, a psychologist and science journalist, published his best-selling book, Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Goleman's book brought the concept into mainstream awareness, expanding on its implications for personal and professional success. He also broadened the definition of emotional intelligence and emphasized its importance in leadership and workplace dynamic. Love and Regret on Route M101. It's the title of an article that appears in the New York Times, April 13, 1988. The article describes Govan Brown. Govan Brown has been driving a city bus in Manhattan for just over 20 years, putting nearly enough miles, 250,000, to reach the moon. You sometimes feel like Ralph Crandom, he said, referring to the forever frustrated bus driver on the television show The Honeymooners. It's the tension and the stress. Most of the time, though, Mr. Brown feels amazingly good. Good enough to have brightened the lives of hundreds of writers who, over the years, have sent letters praising him to the Transit Authority in New York. He didn't feel, as most of the other grouchers do, that the position was beneath him, one writer wrote. So the Transit Authority officials are giving a party for Mr. Brown. for his 20 plus years of service. At noon tomorrow, at the bus depot at 100th Street and Lexington Avenue. The first time they have done this for any of the 9,000 drivers in the system. Nobody can touch him. He's mastered being happy with himself, happy with life, and happy with people that nobody can touch him, the general manager of the Manhattan Bus Division said. Invited to the party are a random sample of the letter writers, 50 in number, top officials of the authority and the drivers' union, and other drivers based at the depot whom Mr. Brown has come to love like brothers. The 53-year-old driver will be presented with a plaque, a model of a bus with his name inscribed on the destination signs. And he is likely to sample some food to be served at the party before, in all probability, proceeding to describe the mixed emotions he feels about leaving the awkward 13-ton steel bus. In recent years, he has spent more time with that bus than with his wife, Rose. Mr. Brown will climb back into that bus for the last time and get back to business. To ride on the M101 with Mr. Brown yesterday north on 3rd Avenue and south on Lexington, usually between 23rd and 125th Street, was to view a master in action. He greeted a toddler with a handshake, spent at least 2 minutes giving directions to a teenager, and wished just about everyone a nice day as they disembarked. Mr. Brown cheerfully answered a woman who asked his name, and then turned the tables. "Lily," she said, apparently surprised at his interest. Beaming, Mr. Brown said, "What a pretty name Lily is." Again and again, Mr. Brown shared his historical knowledge, some amassed during a stint driving a bus on the Transit Authority's weekend culture tours. He tells of Cornelius Vanderbilt repossessing a train shed he had sold to P.T. Barnum for exhibitions, and of the Indians who inhabited northern Manhattan. He points to the site of a long demolished bar where George Washington enjoyed an occasional cocktail. And when he announces that under the Citicorp Center is a subway to Queens, he quickly specifies the borough that's named for the Queen of England. In explaining neighborhoods' histories, Mr. Brown evokes an earlier America, what you know as a zip code we knew as a name, he said. Always, Mr. Brown seems to put passenger convenience first, seemingly even a bit above a strict interpretation of transit authority rules. He stops for passengers not waiting at marked bus stops, carefully admonishing them, "This is not a bus stop, but the bus is crowded." And when the bus is crowded, he makes no effort to force riders to stand behind the white line. When the automatic counter indicates that a passenger has not paid his full fare, Mr. Brown says he often attributes it to the counter's unreliability. The reaction of the passengers. "You start my day off just right," said an elderly woman who was a regular passenger. "You made my day." A young mother carrying a baby said, "You made my day." Remarkably, the leaden faces staring but not seeing across the bus begin to exchange glances as they listen to Mr. Brown. Some smile. Newspapers drop down to reveal faces. You give us blessings," a regular passenger said, squeezing Mr. Brown's arm as she left the bus. Despite the cheer he spreads, Mr. Brown rarely concedes his life as a bus driver has not been perfect. Once he struck a man with his bus, causing him several long seconds of alarm before he learned the man was all right. Passengers have threatened to assault him, getting up at 2:45 a.m. to make it to work by 6:30 a.m. from his home in Bayshore, Long Island, has become a chore, and Mr. Brown deeply resents cutbacks of the service to Harlem, a route in which he made many friends. What comes next is uncertain, even the exact timing of Mr. Brown's departure. He should like to perform in commercials and hasn't been enrolling in acting classes. One of the first exercises was to improvise an episode of The Honeymooners. Naturally, Mr. Brown played Ralph Tramden. But yesterday, headed south on Lexington, somewhere around 42nd Street, he struck a decidedly different note than Ralph would. He said, "I'd like to take this opportunity to wish each and every one of you a nice day," he said with a clear voice. "Keep warm in spirit. May God bless you in each and every way." So what do we learn from Govan Brown's story? The retired, legendary New York City bus driver. There are a few things. Some might say, what kind of man was he? Well, reports say that he was actually active in his local Baptist church. He was a deacon. So his emotional intelligence may come from his Christian worldview. But what do we learn? What can we learn from this example of emotional intelligence? There are three things. We'll call them the ABCs. These are the takeaways. Let's see how we can grade ourselves. Emotional intelligence, A. By A, I mean action. You can grade your emotional intelligence by your actions. A friendly gesture. B, behavior. A pleasant disposition. And C, communication. A kind word. You want to know if you have emotional intelligence? Look for those ABCs. Look for that action, a friendly gesture. Look for that B, behavior, a pleasant disposition. Look at your communication skills, a kind word. You do that, and you have found that you have emotional intelligence. If you like this video, please subscribe, share, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.